everyone, and welcome to my channel in these encounters with beautiful and inspiring minds. Please think of liking and subscribing so that you too can become part of this process of spreading ideas and tricks that could work and could bring more balance, more beauty, and more meaning to our lives. And also, if you're interested in spreading your own message out here, please write me and let's create this network of meaningful conversations and learn more about who we are. Now, the purpose of these interviews is to explore inside beautiful minds, such as I do in my work, and to look into different perspectives, mechanisms, and tools, which perhaps will enable you right now to understand what happens inside your universe and make different choices, or simply invite in your inner space new possibilities of being. And today my guest is Wesley Kew, a master NLP practitioner, clinical hypnotherapist, and a meta health practitioner. So Wesley has a Magister RTM degree in clinical psychology at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. So he specializes in psycho-legal services. So we have to be very careful about what we're saying here. In clinical assessments and therapy with adults. Now Wesley has a passion for highlighting the greatness that already lives in each individual. And if you want, he says, if you want health, wealth, love, and happiness, and you know that you do, then you have to take charge of your life, your decisions and actions. And he says that a journey of 10,000 steps begins with deciding to take the first one. And I agree with that. So Wesley, what was your first step towards who you are today?
When I was much younger, I seemed to have an understanding that I always believed that things would work out okay. And as I grew up and started, engaging with, what I want to do one day. I remember a teacher when I was very young said to me, "Oh, you're really good at listening to people and helping them out." And I was like, "Oh, that's okay. That sounds about right." And I found from a young age that I had a passion for problem solving and helping people really find the answers that already exist in themselves. I remember from a young age hearing a story about a monk walking into an ashram, and there was a statue of the Buddha, and he was smoking, and he took his cigarette and he would ash it onto the statue of the Buddha. And one of the monks in the ashram would quite devastated by this, and he did it again. And they walked up to him and they said, "How can you desecrate this, beautiful shrine to Buddha Anand?" And he said, "Do you not recall the teachings of the Buddha? He said that everything has the Buddha nature inside of them. So even this ash has the Buddha nature inside of it. And if you understood that, you'll see that this is an offering or even a sacrifice to whatever is within us is the Buddha nature." And that was something that helped me start looking at that everything has this potentiality in it. If you see it in the right way, you can see any positive as a negative, any negative as a positive. And, when we start rather seeing things just as they are, we can also move away from all these emotional attachments that we have to it and these desires that we need to influence it. Instead, just stand back and look for the beauty in any situation we find ourselves. And that's something that I'm quite passionate about. And I would love to say that it's a complete journey and I'm an expert at it. But there are many days where, I have to take a hard look at myself and really try and find the good inside myself or things that I've done and do. But, you just got to believe and trust that Buddha nature exists in all of us and try and find it every day.
How do we start becoming responsible and assuming responsibility for our lives and what we experience?
For me, blaming is the first thing we need to really look at. It's so easy to blame something or someone for almost any situation we encounter. Personally, for myself, I take stock and say, okay, how have I contributed to this? Alan Watts speaks of a lovely narrative in the person that was murdered, their responsibility in getting murdered. if we start taking a look at that we, your karma is your karma, or, your destiny is your destiny, whichever way you want to look at it. However, when we start taking responsibility for everything that happens in our lives, we become the masters of our own destiny. We can create our own reality.
So Wesley, let me ask you this then. How concretely one takes responsibility or assumes that responsibility? Concretely speaking, what do I have to do to start doing that?
For me, it is assuming that the outcome isn't this major catastrophe, and that, every new beginning is some other beginning's end. We have to understand that by just removing ourselves from these terrible knock-on effects that we perceive, and just understand, okay, how is this a lesson? How can I create this to grow? And that's one of the ways that I managed to take responsibility for whatever is moving forward. And I suppose if you want to look at it on a bigger level, you can say that, oh, well, if I learn my lesson now, then I'm saving myself the difficulty of having to do it in the next life if you're so inclined, or later on in life.
Yeah, I understand. So if I was seeing you now as your patient, and, I was having problem with blaming pretty much everything and everybody around me for my state of unhappiness, and I would not be aware of that, what would be the first thing that you would tell me?
Well, in a situation like that, I like to highlight that blaming doesn't help with movement. See, blaming is a very stagnant process. So if I say, well, I'm unfit because my parents were unfit and they never did exercise, then, okay, even if that is the truth, you're now a victim of your past, and you're perpetuating the past, and you're influencing the present.
Uh-huh.
So I'm saying that, okay, yes, those were the facts. However, what would you decide right now without that preconceived idea or that habit of thinking? And for me, I'm about movement. I think it was Einstein that said, bicycles work only when they're moving, and or they stay in balance when moving. And I like to believe that while we move, progress, and develop, we have the ability to stay centered. We know the only constant in the universe is change. So if we're willing to adapt to that, we can continue moving in a direction while maintaining some kind of centeredness.
Yeah, but you said something earlier, and maybe it's related to how we address blame. Since you mentioned it, maybe many people would like to know more about that, I assume, because we all blame everything and everybody. We blame the government, we blame our parents, we all blame something or somebody all the time for not being happy, because it's easier to find an excuse than to assume, right? Fully the responsibility of this present moment. So you said something earlier, which is the importance of seeing things as they are. So how would you put this together, moving from blame into seeing things as they are? And what is blame?
The way I make sense of it is the social anthropologist Cooley. He speaks of the looking glass theory, which is, I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. From such a young age, we are taught to respond within relation to our parents, right? And that links to probably one of my favorite psychology statements, which is persecutory annihilation anxiety. So what happens is, as a child, we instinctively know that if we are removed from this libidinal connection from our parents, we are not going to be, we're going to be annihilated. We won't be able to survive. We instinctively know that. So we learn from a young age that, okay, if I respond in this way, and mommy or daddy or the primary caregiver, whoever it is happy with me, then that connection exists and I will survive. Yet that also means we're essentially teaching a child, or we are teaching people to don't take responsibility for yourself. We will take responsibility for you because we will care for you. Now, yes, that's a natural process that has to happen. And that process is all good and well. but then there's a responsibility on the parents to understand that they need to then create that distance for the children so that they can make their own mistakes. That's why Donald Winnicott calls it good enough parenting. Not perfect parenting, good enough. You must let your child go out into the wilderness, so to speak, and fail, and teach them to take responsibility. Okay, so you decided to eat more candy. Now your stomach is sore. Okay, do you see how you made that decision? Or you weren't concentrating while doing this and then you got hurt. Do you see how your decisions influenced that? So for me, that is where the parenting and the responsibility of the child have to come in. And yes, of course, we're all born with our own destiny to follow. And, the spiritual following that I like to follow or believe in would say that, children are loaned to their parents. So it's also part of navigating how we let go and also take responsibility from a young age.
So if we were to learn steps from you, Wesley, on how to become more responsible, what would be the first 3 steps that I would need to learn to do as of now to assume more responsibility in my life for what I assume it's bad?
One, it's going to be difficult. It almost follows the noble truths.
Yes.
It is suffering. The suffering will cease, and it depends on you seeing things for the way they are. So for one, it's accept that it is going to be tough, and you're going to have to confront yourself quite stringently, and you're going to have to sometimes think back about the time you embarrassed yourself by saying something stupid, or the times that you took a chance and it didn't quite work out the way you expected it to. That is something that would need to be understood. Then you also have to understand that we can only grow from those experiences. As one of my teachers, Terry Alston, always says, shit happens and then you get compost. We need these difficult times to grow. And then, lastly, understanding that the more you practice this, the better you will get at it.
And how do I practice this?
So one of the practical ways I like to use is remove the word sorry from your vocabulary. So for example, instead of saying, sorry, I'm late, say to me, ooh, I chose to stand in the shower for a minute longer because it was so comfortable because I wanted to do that. Or if you spill tea or coffee, don't say sorry, say, ooh, I was not concentrating on what I was doing and therefore this is the result. Start seeing the cause and effect, and you'll start seeing how all of a sudden, wait a minute, I'm feeling upset about something because they didn't have my brand of coffee, but that's my choice. So for me, it all comes down to acknowledging that you made this choice. And you can blame, oh, but I'm doing this because my parents used to do it, but you're still deciding to make sense of the world within the mind frame of someone else's reality.
Well, yeah, I've heard that too. Instead of saying sorry for being late or sorry for making you wait, I would say thank you for waiting for me. Like, okay, at least I appreciate the fact that you waited for me, but I assume that I was late because of myself. So basically, when I feel like I'm blaming somebody or something, or the situation or the whole world or the system, instead of saying I'm unhappy because of how things are in the society, maybe I should say I'm unhappy because I choose to.
Yeah. And also go, how have I contributed towards this? Because ultimately, we have a part to play. In science, they would call it the observer effect. The mere fact of observing a system influences the system. So if we are unhappy with something, take a look at about how have I influenced this? And for me, that, again, not that we have much control in this world. I mean, what is it? Alan Watts, or also Carl Sagan, that says, we're on a rock in space spinning at 800 miles a second being pulled towards the sun while pulled away by other planets. in a solar system, in a galaxy spinning around a black hole. You know, what control do we really have? But for me, it's like, okay, well, how can I potentially take responsibility or control for my next decision? How have I contributed towards this?
Yeah, we talk about control, and many therapists that I'm talking to, we mention this word, and I love Alan Watts too, by the way. I'm a fan of his. So
Yeah, I love
what
it.
else can we use as a term instead of control, so that we feel that we are doing something, but we can't really influence? I mean, this is a very deep and philosophical question. Do I influence or I don't influence my life? And if I do, what and how?
So, for just saying that, the first thing that comes to mind are words like understanding and acceptance. If we understand the small frame of reality that we exist in, we can understand the parameters. One of the things that I've sort of been playing around with in my mind from when I've started studying is I had an experience when I was sitting at a at a restaurant, and our group of our class, because when you do the masters of psychology, there's about 8 people in a class, so you get to know people pretty intimately over 2 years. And there was one individual that at that time was giving me plenty of opportunity to grow as an individual. In layman's terms, we didn't get on very well. And I remember sitting with my back turned, and I could feel something that I really didn't like just behind me. And I had this vision of something just pushing in. I turned around and it was him. And I was immediately thinking to myself, wait a minute, how does this aura / energy kind of thing work? And then I had this thought that, we have a resonance and we can feel things around us. So our awareness is much larger than just our skin. And if you start looking at what a lot of the great teachers would say, they would say, like, expand your awareness, expand it, bigger than the room, bigger, whatever. And, science is also catching on with, what's called ESP, the ability to mind couple. We also have research that highlights if 2 people sit and communicate, there is a brain coupling that happens. So we, intuit a lot of what's happening. But I started thinking that if I am aware of my surroundings, I have permanent feelers out around me. And when we become more aware of our impact on our friends, our society, our thinking, we almost move with a big awareness around us. And the more we expand that, we can understand why things might happen. I crashed my car because I was so angry at someone, and that it manifested in that way. Or I spent a lot of money on something because I really felt like I needed to feel that I owned something. And when we start looking at like that, we can understand a little bit more about how we, can take responsibility.
Yeah, so control could be replaced with understanding and acceptance and awareness as well. Awareness of how much you influence actually everything and everybody around you, and how much you, in your turn, are influenced by others. That we're kind of part of a bigger thing that we interrelate with each other. And your decision, your choice today can influence everybody else's at a certain point in time. That makes like a ripple.
Absolutely. And, added onto that, the other people, again, Alan Watts, he speaks of how we need our enemies to make us stronger. If we don't have an enemy to test us, we will become weak because we're not tensing our muscles. We don't have something to protect, and we will eventually consume ourselves. And for me, that was also quite an insight that the more I start accepting these things that I don't like, the stronger I will become, because I will grow to understand what their purpose is. And I then, understand that I need that. The world needs conflict. You know, the world is neither good nor bad. It's just highly competitive.
All right. So I saw that you have hosted a few seminars. I kind of sneaked and I looked into your website on critical thinking, on how to examine stress and avoid it, rediscover being at peace, and of course, beating procrastination. So you cover a wide range of subjects, but what would be your favorite or your strongest skill, if you want, or which seminar, which of these was more interesting to you personally to teach?
For me, it's the finding peace. I think I like to believe that I'm really good at having people calm down and become centered. So one of the getaways I do is I will take people out into nature, preferably by the ocean, because I'm very comfortable with the ocean and around the ocean. And I will sometimes just have people sit and stare at the ocean for 2 hours. And, you know, it's just amazing to see how uncomfortable people become. I remember because I do this privately as well, and I had a client who, you know, was exceptionally stressed and, you know, struggled to, they built up this belief that they can't concentrate now and they're on all these concentration medications, etc., etc. And after the third day, or around about the third day of just sitting and being with nature, so focusing on your breath, you know, just especially when you're so close to the ocean, there's a lot of noise, and it helps drown out those like habitual thinking, those limiting beliefs that come up. And you could almost see the client go, wow, I can hear the ocean. You know, I can breathe. And you can see their whole body just become almost a bit lame and just like relaxing into it. And that's, you know, on a biological level, we can say the adrenals have stopped fighting. The fight and flight has subsided, and we can just be a little bit. And that's when you can start the conversation about, wow, how did I get here? You know, what is this set of beliefs and decisions that I've been taking to get me into this, you know, what Ernest Becker will describe as something akin to madness. And we have to let go of this madness and this chaos. And we have to either bring back a rendering, or we get lost in the chaos. You know, Ernest Becker would say that the madman and the artist dive into the same pool, but the artist comes back with a rendering, a lesson from this chaos, and the madman gets stuck there. And for me, I like to help people bring back something from the chaos that they can use to help them go forward.
And how do you do that?
So for one, it could be purpose, just finding for what purpose am I here? What am I doing this for? You know, I know it's such a cliche question, but cliches are there for a reason. But where do you want to be in 5 years? You know, many people go, oh, yeah, okay, I want this, and they stop. Delve into that. You know, what do you want to weigh in 5 years? What holiday do you want to go on? What people do you want to surround yourself with? What financial status do you want? What emotional status do you want? What spirituality do you want? You know, there's so many elements to us just being us on a daily level, but yet we don't focus on that. You know, you ask someone a simple question like, well, what do you want to weigh in 5 years? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, have you thought about your physical well-being? They're like, oh, yeah, well, I'll just keep on doing what I'm doing. You know, and I often say to people, it's like shooting an arrow. You're shooting an arrow, but you're looking at the arrow and you let it go, and you go, oh my God, how did that arrow end up there? And then they shoot again. And they keep doing that until they get so frustrated They walk up to where the arrow is and they just paint the bullseye around the arrow and they go, oh, well, this is where I am. You know, instead of actually looking at your targets and deciding, okay, I need to adjust my life in this way to achieve that. I think it's Tony Robbins that said, you cannot have a plan for your life if you don't have a plan for your day. You know, if you want to understand where your life is going, look at what your daily habits are, you know, maybe even extrapolate to a week. And, you know, you can see where your life is going. I often work with teenagers, especially when it comes to exams and procrastination. And I will ask them to, okay, bring me your phone. And I'll say to them, I'm going to push a couple of buttons. I'm going to show you who you are. And for example, on Instagram, you can press explore. And on the explore button, the most frequently searched things would come up because of the algorithms. And these algorithms are pretty good. And you can say to, especially if it might be a young boy, it'd be like, okay, you're interested in surfing, women, and fancy cars. You know, for girls, there's also like, you know, maybe it's cooking, fashion, and, you know, potting plants, makeup, whatever it is. But if we start taking a really open look at what we are letting in, we will understand what is going out.
Wow.
On that, as Jason Silver speaks of ontological design, and you know, if we think of a system of consumption and eradicating, if we are so busy, well, we look more at what we're consuming while we're consuming it, instead of looking at what is it that I'm going to be consuming, and then looking, well, what are you expelling? You know, I know you are interested in the Ayurvedic, and I mean, we've spoken about this before. And, you know, not enough people look at their stool. You know, not enough people are being aware of their urine that's passing. But in the same way, what are you saying? What are you thinking? You know, that's also a form of expelling what's inside. And the more you become aware of that, the more you will become aware of what you are creating and perpetually feeding and expelling.
Okay, so it comes down to being more selective with what comes in, right? Because what comes in makes, in a way, who you are.
And for me, it highlights a lot of our addictions. So I'll often say to clients, you know, you're addicted to stress. And they're like, no, I'm not. So, okay, tell me, do you watch TV? Yes. Do you watch whatever? Yeah. Okay, what's your favorite TV show? Oh, no, it's CSI or American Idols or whatever. I'm like, okay, go look at what those shows do. Watch Idols without a soundtrack. It's always, oh, advert, and we'll tell you next time. CSI, it's like walking around and you've got this ominous music playing and your anxiety levels are spiked. And yet people go, oh, I don't stress. It's like, no, you're so addicted to stress that you need it all the time. And the more we start engaging with that, we'll understand that these TV shows we're watching are elevating our anxiety levels. They're elevating our fear levels, you know. So for me, it's such a passionate thing to try and engage with people, that people have a relationship with their televisions, in so much as like, no, I need to be at home at 7 o'clock on Monday because Grey's Anatomy is on, and I can't miss Grey's Anatomy. If they miss Grey's Anatomy, they get all frustrated. You know, on another level, you know, our cell phones. Cell phones are essentially the perfect relationship. It always works. It gives you what you want. And if it doesn't, you get a new one. And it stores our brain. It stores our pictures. It stores our feelings. It gives us access to food. It's basically also how we time travel. You know, phones, as far as I'm concerned, are basically wormholes, because if, like right now, you and I are conversing on a wormhole, we've collapsed space and time. So we are converting real time through a portal that is being created. And, you know, that's how far technology is coming. We're now experimenting with moving particles via basically cell phones from one to another. So for me, technology is really influenced how we think and feel, as you can see, and it's something that I'm quite interested in going forward.
Yeah, me too. I'm kind of curious. Let's put it that way, because I want to choose the words and the way I think about it, because I don't want to say that I'm kind of a bit worried about how technology is influencing our psychology and everything else that is coming, of course, because it's not stopping here. It's going even further than just a cell phone, right? So, but I don't want to go into that.
Yeah,
I want to
sure.
remain curious and open to all possibilities and listen to what you
Cool.
have to say. Like how, because you had that seminar on examining stress and avoiding it. How can I avoid? Okay, I stop watching TV, not going too much on social media. What else can we do to avoid this stress? And especially now, because now we're living through very interesting times, let's call them that way, this confinement and the virus and all this paradigm, this shift that is happening. What would you tell people to do to avoid this stress and to stay more focused and reach that state of peace if they don't have an ocean nearby to look at and stare at for 2 hours?
You know, one of the things that I believe right now is we don't need positivity right now. I don't like that word in any way, nor negativity. I feel that we need to accept things as they are. You know, sometimes things are bad. You know, I find it so disrespectful, you know, someone that might just be retrenched and say then, just cheer up, it's going to be okay. Or someone that's lost a child or gone through a divorce and say like, it's okay, don't worry, it's going to be, no, it's shit. And the more we learn to just sit with that, the more we become empowered, because too many people, and I've been speaking to friends and colleagues, it's, you know, everyone's like, how are you? No, yeah, no, I'm doing okay, you know, and it's fine. And no one's going, listen, yeah, I'm really struggling. I miss my friends and I miss this and I don't like this. This is not who I naturally want to be. And we're not having those conversations. And I feel the more we are open to being vulnerable and actually saying, yeah, I'm struggling right now. I'm okay. You know, I've got a roof over my head. I've got food to eat. I've got water to drink. But I'm really struggling. I miss my social interactions and etc. I feel that would be very helpful in all situations. You know, I'll sometimes say to people, it's not always about meditation. It's about sometimes just go sit on your couch. And, you know, if you want, put a bit of music on, but just sit on your couch for 30, 40 minutes and just say to yourself, okay, this is where I am right now. I'm just taking some time out for me right now. I don't know what's going to happen, whatever, you know. And then we also have the other side. I'll sometimes say to people, okay, go and put your 40-minute timer and then just think worst case scenario. Just engage with your thoughts. Engage with how bad it can be and this and that and give space to those thoughts, because what we resist will persist. But if we let it come, just bring it up and then, you know, take the piece of paper, go burn it, throw it away, do whatever you want with it. But after that, you go, okay, cool. I've given space for that. Now I'm back on track with where I want to go. And for me, that's really valuable. You know, just feel what you need to feel. There's no rules about what's wrong and right. Just engage with it.
So is that acceptance, Wesley? I mean, how do we accept? You're a clinical psychologist, you studied NLP as well. Is there a mechanism for accepting, like steps to take, or is different for each of us? And what is for you? For instance, how do you feel you inside when you know that you have accepted something for what it is?
I like to work from a theoretical framework that's called object relations. And object relations is based on two basic paradigms. One is called the paranoid schizoid stage, and that one is called the depressive stage. So basically means in the paranoid schizoid, you either see things as good or bad. You know, it's the wicked witch or it's the fairy godmother. and we oscillate between the two of them. And that's where children often are like, I hate you, mommy, you're the worst mom in the world, and you make me sad. So you're like, oh, I love you so much, and. Now, as we mature, we need to learn to bring these two together without fearing that the bad will override the good. And when we are able to bring that together and see mommy or daddy or the primary caregiver as a whole entity that's both good and bad together, we move to what's called the depressive state, where we feel bad for having attacked the good or attacked the bad, but now we know the bad is also the good. And when you accept that, there is a bit of a, it's like, I feel a little bit bad about that. I don't really believe in the word depression, but that's a topic for a whole other time. But when we say depressive state, it's just that it's a bit of a regret, going, oh, I can't believe I attacked the thing I love so much. But then working through that and understanding, okay, I did that. What lesson can I learn and move forward? And for me, that's how I make sense of the acceptance.
So what have you accepted? Give me an example of what you have accepted and how it felt. I would like people that are watching us now to be able to tap into that state of acceptance so that they can recognize it. Sometimes we don't even recognize because we don't even know what is that state of acceptance.
Well, one of the things that, sort of comes to mind on a personal level is I'll be honest and say that I grew up with a very Hollywood idea of what love and the female physique as well as the male status has to be. And for a long time I would find myself in relationships that follow that trend. Girls have to look like this and they have to behave like this, and I have to be a man, and and sex has to happen like this way, and it has to be all these magical things, and relationships are whatever they are. And I had to come to accept that was built on my fantasies of, or in the psychology world we call PH fantasies, these delusions or ideals that I'd created. And I really had to accept that, that's not how relationships work. This is not how sex works. It's a little bit mundane at times, and it does require a constant focus, and there is some form of sacrifice. And that's something that I really had to accept with and let go of these, Hollywood billionaire playboy fantasies. That took a while for me to work on and get through.
And when you reached it, how did you know you were there?
I was willing to acknowledge the beauty in the simple things in front of me. Waking up next to someone that really is supportive of me and wants to just have the best for us as a family going forward. And also understanding that life isn't great all the time. We need, what is that quote? If the sun shines every day, everything becomes a desert. We need a bit of the stormy times in our life to help us grow and develop.
I see. Well, thank you. Thank you for your answer. So I'm curious, because you are a psychologist, you studied NLP and some other practices from what I've read, but there are some things that you can do that nobody else does beyond the techniques, because the techniques, there's so many people that are studying and are practicing now NLP, but you are unique. And there was a territory on which this NLP structure landed. Mm-hmm. So I would like to know, what is that particular thing that is unique to you, that you bring into the relationship to your clients?
I would say that for me, it's the willingness to trust a higher source, in so much as that I will do whatever it takes to bring about the healing, or the change that needs to happen within the clients. And I'm also sometimes willing to take a few risks, and in that regard, which not everyone is able to, especially when you get to the more medical professions like psychology and psychiatry. There's often a very prescribed method of working, and you stick to the method, and if you don't do so, I remember, for example, when I started, I got into quite a lot of not trouble as much, but I would, for instance, wear shorts to work, and a lot of my colleagues would be like, "How can you do that?" And I go, "Well, if someone I'm going to work with is not going to work with me because they can't get over the fact that I'm wearing shorts, then how the hell can I expect this person to open their mind to a new reality?" So it's simple things like that, and also challenging people on a level where I don't care if you don't come back. I always, I've been told by a lot of my colleagues I have a very bad business model. Psychology, is often built upon the premise of repeat customers. And I would say to my clients that if I do my job correctly, I will never see you again. And for me, that's something that I really hold at the forefront, is that, yes, I need to make a living, etc., but, I'm here to get the results. I'm here for you to find the healing and well-being that you need, so you can go out and, if not only facilitate yourself, help someone else a little bit, pay it forward. And for me, creating that network of healing around the world, that is just where it's at. It's like the narrative of the farmer who had the best crops, and he would go to all his neighboring farmers and he would give them the seeds, and people were like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, well, the air moves this way, so if they have great crops, then my crops will be great." And for me, it really is about, the more I can spread this knowledge that I've been given. It's not because I'm so brilliant or whatever I've done. It's that I've been given the opportunity to help people move in a certain direction. And for me, that's what I believe is really different or is unique to me.
So why is it important? Let's tap into the real motivation behind that. Why is it important to you to spread this knowledge and to help others and to help this healing?
I'm really pained by hardships when I see it around. It really does get to me, and my instinct is to try and help and do something. And I've had to learn over the years that there's only so much you can do before you start burning out. And if you've given away everything you have, well, then what? Okay, well, fine, you can become a yogi or whatever and travel the world and do what you can. But in the same sense, I can feed 100 people every month, by having an income and building enterprises that allow me to facilitate people on a greater scale. And if that means that I turn a profit, then that's awesome. But my intention is to try and alleviate that suffering, because it really does pain me sometimes. I've got better at it over the years, but it is still something that it's tough for me to, especially living in a country like ours, to see that kind of suffering and hardship day in and day out.
By the way, Wesley is in South Africa. We haven't mentioned that at the beginning.
I've also learned that very often these people that might be suffering in my perspective are quite joyous in their realities. So in the same way, it's also quite a lesson for me that, by accepting your state of being and your place on earth, and, just finding meaning within even your small social system can really bring unbelievable purpose and meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we talked about these important things and you mentioned the word trust earlier, you
Mm.
know, we are a sum of beliefs, right? We are a sum of memories, and you know that better than I. But beyond belief, what do you trust beyond all doubt that you don't even have to question it anymore?
That I'm going to be okay, and that it is going to get better. And sometimes, getting better means getting ill. That's one of the things that, as I'm training more and more in mental health, is understanding that illness isn't always bad, it's getting better. But one of the things that I've, especially during this lockdown, has been running through my mind is, from a young age, I always just believed that things are going, I can trust in something greater than myself. I don't always have to be doing something. I just need to be at peace. And that's just something that, every now and then I forget that, and I sit back and it's like, I found myself like stressing about something. I was like, just relax. It's going
It's
to be
okay.
okay. It's okay, and even if you lose everything, if you have your health, you start over again.
And how do we do that? I mean, do you think that's the mind, or is it beyond the mind?
One of the things that for me is, I trust in my ability to continuously receive. I've recently read a book on the secret oral tradition, the secret Tibetan oral traditions, and one of the things that came out of that was that the source that we are looking for is looking for us. We just need to align to it. All the abundance we'll ever need or require is there. And I had this this vision of, if you think about, people say, what is your slice of the pie? We often think of it as like this, like us taking in from there. But for me, I'm like, turn it around. We are moving out. Our slice of the pie is as big as we can even imagine it to be. We just need to align to it. And for me, that is really the trust in just believing that something greater is in charge here. It's not me.
Okay, so trust is something that happens, right?
Ultimately, what's going to happen is going to play out. So the sun's going to burn out, and yes, we most probably are going to destroy this planet, and yeah, we'll probably live on another one. And who knows? So yeah, I would suppose that, trust in itself is there all the time. We just need to decide to engage with it.
One last question before I will ask you to do a little demonstration or maybe a short practice with us if we have something, we can think of something. And my last question would be, what do you think you're here for then, Wesley? Why are you here on this planet now, in this body, as Wesley?
Many times the stock standard answer would be like, to help people and do this and do that. But I'm more starting to understand that it's potentially for me as an individual to raise my frequency amidst chaos. Being able to stay the course, and I suppose you'd say move towards enlightenment, and become able to just consistently add a frequency that empowers individuals to be resourceful.
Good. You're doing that, I guess.
Yeah, one day at a time.
What if you're already that?
Yeah, maybe the work is to accept that we are there already and move on to something else. But then again, there's still a few things to enjoy and engage with as well. As you say that, it brings to mind another one of the Zen stories Alan Watts speaks of, and he says that very often when Westerners started engaging with these great teachers from the East, they would be devastated to see that the teacher would smoke, or would have a girlfriend or boyfriend for that matter, and they would, do these things which would be seen as, unholy. And these teachers would go like, well, if I don't engage in some of these narratives, then I will just dissipate into nothingness. So I need to keep my connection here. And for me, that's something I've also liked, is don't worship me. It's not me, it's the teachings. It's the wisdom that is, there was a Tesla that says, I'm just the tuning fork used, like vibrating according to the universe, whatever the quote is. And so for me, it's like, we're on this planet, may as well indulge in some of its distractions from time to time.
Yeah, and he was also saying that there's no such a thing as a misshaped cloud. So we're all perfect. There was another master, I don't remember who was saying that. I don't want to misquote, but it was something like this. We're all perfect the way we are, and we can all use a little bit of improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, that's where the acceptance is no one gets it right. The Dalai Lama still has to meditate. Many spiritual leaders, Jesus in his last moments also had doubts about, why have you forsaken me? All our deities, had these struggles. And if the great masters still have to work on themselves, then sheesh, I've got a ways to go, and I've made peace with that.
Yeah, that's what acceptance is, after all, isn't it? The realization that human nature is as is, and at the same time we're connected, as you said, with this slice of pie turned the other way around, receiving and just being there with what it is, and knowing that everything is okay and that I'll be okay, because all this is just a game and a play, and there's never been a misshaped cloud, so there is no way that I could be wrong, except
Absolutely.
from hurting myself and denying my own beauty and my own strength. That's wonderful. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for all this insights. Would you
Awesome.
have a short practice to do with me and our viewers? Something that you like doing, something that, for instance, could bring us into that state of trust, in that state of being connected with something greater, maybe? Because when I heard you speaking of that, there was lots of passion in there, so maybe we can tap into that with you.
I suppose one of the things that I like to do is like use small visualizations of things that we really have, that we have been proud of, and just engage with that feeling that we, or as Ernest, well, it's actually Eric Weinstein that says we are gods without the wisdom, and the more we can change our state, for me, that is something that is quite valuable.
So can you please share with us a tool or a technique that will help us shift from a bad state into a good state, a more resourceful state?
Okay. So I like using breath work. So if you had to just get really nice and comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. So just find your center, and now just take a nice breath in. That's right. Very good. And exhale. One more. And then with your next breath, I want you to inhale slowly. And as you inhale, slowly, 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 imagine you're inhaling from the bottom of your sacrum all the way up to the top of your head, and then just hold your breath there. That's right. And then exhale. And just another balancing breath. That's right, very good. And as you just balance your breath, I want you to imagine that all the resourcefulness, all the abundance, and everything that we would ever require exists as a river, and it just feeds through the universe. And as you see that river all around, I want us to again, after our next inhalation, just slowly inhale. And as you inhale, just imagine you're opening up the contact with that eternal abundance. And exhale, and then again as we inhale as long and slow as we can. And at the top of the breath, hold and almost imagine if our third eye is opening up and just receiving from the eternal stream of consciousness and abundance. And hold the breath, keep holding it. So as we hold the breath, we take control of the animal body. And exhale. Just holding the consciousness just above your eyes and your forehead. And expanding your awareness to the abundance that exists at all time, through time, and understand that all we need to do is be open to receiving. And then one more time, after the exhalation, a slow breath in and hold it at the top. Keep holding, keep challenging the animal body. And exhale. You might feel your head turning and spinning a bit. You might feel a lightness around you. And just allow and accept all the abundance that you've ever desired, needed, wanted. It's always been there. You just need to connect with it. And as you settle into that, let come forward everything you've wanted to achieve. Visualize these tasks as complete. Imagine your greatness. See it, feel it. Allow yourself to indulge with the Buddha nature inside of you. That's right. Let it grow. If you feel yourself playing down and thinking you're not worthy of it, brighten your light. We do not serve the world by playing small. Dare yourself to dream. That's right. Very good. And as we prepare to finish up, just remind yourself that your access to the stream of consciousness, abundance, love, greatness is always there. It's one decision away. Just one decision away. And as you've made all those arrangements in every cell in your body, allow yourself to come back to the room.
It's hard to come out of it.
Hmm.
I feel so deeply relaxed now. It's wonderful.
And this is something I remind people of, that, you know, you can just making the decision to be aware of the stream of consciousness. You know, it's a 30-second exercise. You can do it while you're driving. Well, maybe not while you're driving, but just being aware of, you know, the abundance around you. Sitting at work, you know, sitting on the train, you know, just being aware of this abundance, you know, brings you closer to it.
So it's one decision away. I like that.
One decision away.
Anything else you would like to add before we end the conversation today?
No, just thank you very much for the opportunity. It was really cool to engage with this, and yeah, I had lots of fun doing it.
Yeah, me too. And remember, we had a session. I actually had a session with you. When was it? A couple of years ago, maybe. I don't even remember when.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Which was of a tremendous help, and I'm still grateful for that. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad you got value from that.
I liked the voice, and I like that out of emotion approach, like more, let's go, I don't want to go into any debate here, but more masculine approach into, let's take what is. And sometimes it helps the mind, rather than going in all these emotions and trying to understand why and where it happened. Go with what it is now, and that's what your session brought me into the reality. We worked on a picture, on an image, and it made me see it clearly, and actually it happened. So I actually lived that particular moment you made me see that day. Yes.
You know, one of the things you mentioned, the masculine, is I mean, we've known from the beginning of time, women are more evolved and, you know, at a higher level. And one of the things that I often work with people is, once we've been in the chaos, we need to touch base. And once we've created that base of, okay, let's see it as we are, then we can evolve into the meaning. And for me, that is, you know, it's almost, don't try and do a dance without knowing the steps. You first need to go learn the steps, and then once you get those steps, then you can improvise in the dance. So that is, you know, part of the process that we have to engage with.
Yeah, and be creative. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Wesley. Thank you for sharing all this with us, for your generosity. And thank you all, of course, for watching and for, you know, being part of this process. Please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, if you have something to say, if you want to share your understandings, your knowledge, your tools, and want to have a meaningful conversation here with me and spread your message, clarify also what is important to you, and introduce yourself to the world, well, contact me and let's talk. And embrace that greatness. Remember, it is one decision away.